I always say, "Hi, Andrew, how you doing?" She says, "I'm blessed and happy." I don't care what she's going through. She says the same thing. I'm blessed and happy. So that's I'm gonna start saying that. I'm blessed and happy. So how you doing this morning, Pastor Hobbs?
I am phenomenal by the grace of God. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. I see you have one of those ITYs.
Yes, that's my friend.
You had him on the show?
Oh, he's been on many times. Yes, Danny Santana. We try to trying to mentor him as a returned citizen who's mentoring other returning citizens.
Do you all work with Devin McNeil at all?
Absolutely. In fact, Eric and I met him when he first came out of jail, and we continue to support him. And so, yes, he's one of the people, again, who we're helping to try to mentor, connect with mentors as he's mentoring and preventing
young folks right.
The show is actually there.
All right, so we are getting ready. Oh, you know what? I don't have my computer. I don't have my computer or my phone. So, good morning. This is People Power with Priscilla. I'm a little off tilter this morning. When I'm running late, I get a little discombobulated. But I have a wonderful guest this morning. I am so blessed to have met this young woman who happened to go to school. Was it high school, Bridget? High school with my niece Crystal Flint. And so I met her through a mutual friend, Michael Jacoby Brown, a few months ago, I believe. And we had a meeting at Sweet Life on Dorchester Ave in Lower Mills. And that's when I ran into Mr. Marty Walsh and took a picture with him. And I'm going to be calling you, Marty. I know he ain't listening, but I'm going to be calling you. So my guest today is Bridget Brown. And I apologize because I don't have my computer and I don't have my phone, so I can't read her bio. Can I have my phone? Thank you, you have it? I do. I don't want you to read your bio. I want to read you.
I sent it to
I know I had it already, and then I didn't have my phone. So, but I'm gonna get it together one of these days. That's why I have Michelle Devon, my assistant. She's doing a very good job. She really.
What's it? Radio station?
She's really good. So yeah, good morning, people. I am, like I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm messing up. Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you about Miss Bridget Brown. Miss Bridget Brown is thebomb.com.
.tv.
Okay. Bridget Brown, a name synonymous with dedication, innovation, and leadership, with an expansive career spanning various sectors. Bridget has left an indelible mark in the fields of communications, development, arts, and culture. As the current lead partner at Medium Communications, she drives the strategic direction of the firm, underlining her expertise in both leadership and organization. Her recent role as Chief Advancement Officer at New England Blacks in Philanthropy.
That's not true.
It's not true? Okay. So I'm not going to say that.
Most recent, that was recently, but now I have my own business.
Oh, right. So, a proud alumni of Emerson College with a Master's of Fine Arts and Creative Writing, Bridget's contributions aren't limited to the boardroom. As a John W. Fulbright scholar and seasoned writer, she's authored and contributed a plethora of articles, interviews, and multimedia projects that resonate with people across communities. Her work has been published in the Boston Globe, the Herald, Ethiopia, Edutopia, WGBH, the Bay State Band, and more. And so I could go on and on. I'm going to stop there. She sits on a couple of boards, and I'm just happy to have met her, and we have been talking, and she has a wealth of knowledge. So, good morning, Bridget.
Good morning.
Welcome to People Power with Priscilla.
Thank you so much.
We are the people, we have the power. That's my motto. So tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up at, and how did you get to this point where you said, I'm going to go out on my own?
Oh,
I know it's a lot, right?
sure. I was born in Boston, in Roxbury, and raised in Dorchester, and I, at a very young age, I wanted to be a writer because I liked listening to stories, and there were things that I remembered about from my childhood growing up in Roxbury, particularly in the Dudley Square area. As a very young child, I remember things that happened. Like I think I remember witnessing a lot of the riots that took place during the height of, I guess, the busing movement. Though I was too young to know what was going on, I do remember being a part of a lot of the political and social change that was occurring in the 1970s, mid 70s, late 70s. And all of those things just kind of left an impression on me and made me feel like it was not just my story, these were not just my experiences, but the experiences of my family and an entire community. And so I graduated from high school and decided that I wanted to be a writer and be a communicator. And I went to college and studied communications and focused on creative writing, and graduated from college and came out working in book publishing. And I worked in book publishing as an editor on social studies textbooks, and in Boston and in Chicago, and I continued down that path, and then I started working with the communities and doing grant writing and any kind of writing, business writing. I think people realize, oh, well, she has skills. She can write your resume. She can write your obituary. She can do this. So I just started writing for everybody and continued to do that, and worked with community-based organizations, developing their proposals, their business plans, helping them to cultivate donors, and before I knew it, I was like, wow, I'm really good at fundraising, and I'm really good at using my writing skills to, build up organizations and to bring money in. And I continued on that track for a while, working with nonprofit organizations, and focusing on fundraising and communications. And I also worked for the city of Boston under...
I did too. When did you work for the city of Boston?
So I worked for the city in 2016 under Mayor Marty Walsh. I worked in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. I oversaw the Boston Cultural Council grant program. I also worked with the city to secure thousands of dollars for the Boston Memorial markers, which are now on Boylston Street. So that was probably the highlight of my experience that particular time, just helping the city to set up a marker on Boylston Street, a real monument in remembrance of those who passed away as a result of the Boston Marathon bombings. And I also worked as the chief speechwriter to Mayor Kim Janey, which was just, I think, probably the highlight of my career in the municipal
Isn't
sector.
that nice to put on your resume?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience. It was challenging, working with Mayor Janey, and challenging in a way that kind of bends you for growth, right? Because she was definitely a perfectionist, and she was definitely clear, or wanted to be very clear on what she was saying to the people of Boston. So I feel in a way that that thread kind of I'm a part of Boston's, history in that, I pretty much wrote her speeches and her talking points and.
Who knew, right?
Exactly, right?
The woman behind the woman.
right.
Yes, that's wonderful though to hear.
Yeah.
I know that must have really been an experience.
Oh.
I did work on her campaign.
Oh.
She's the one that appointed me to the Boston Employment Commission.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then when Mayor Wu was elected, she reappointed me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an amazing experience, and I'm thankful and grateful to Mayor Kim Janey for giving me an opportunity. After that, I pretty much decided to go on my own because I realized that, wow,
I have all this knowledge, all this skill set, right?
All
exactly.
the skill sets, and
yes,
my family had been encouraging me for the longest time. Why don't you just
start
go
your
on your own? Yeah, go into your own.
Yeah.
And it really was a leap of faith, right? Because you work for so long, and it's just
you're used to
like,
getting that steady paycheck, and it's going to come in.
Right,
yes,
right.
Yes.
But definitely God was there, and it was interesting because I think with faith you just wake up one morning and you're like, I'm going to do it. You know
exactly.
what I mean? I'm going to just do it.
Yes,
and
yes.
I know that everything's going to be okay, and that's what I did. I just did it. I said, okay, I'm gonna start this business. I have way too many people asking me, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And I have 3 partners, so we all kind of partnered together and established Medium Communications, and we do nonprofit development communications. We write speeches, we write business plans, we build websites, we do program evaluation, and it's been great. It's been wonderful, and I love it.
Well, I am so glad, and I am so glad that I met you, and I'm so glad that you're from OP, Orchard Pie.
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
Yes, and your skill set is exactly what our organization needs. Marcus Anthony Hall Educational, and I know Pastor Hobbs. He has an organization called Healing Our Land. Pastor Hobbs, tell her a little bit about Healing Our Land and the work you've been doing in our community.
Sure, thank you. Absolutely. I was listening to them and said, oh my goodness, yes, we need to definitely connect. So you were right on point. But yeah, Healing Our Land was really birthed out of a response to the issue of HIV and AIDS during the AIDS epidemic, when it was, of course, like everything, disproportionate impacting Black and brown and poor people. And so I ran a support group for HIV positive men of color, and from that group birthed Healing Our Land, which was really amplifying the voice of the underserved, the marginalized, the disenfranchised, and high-risk communities. One of those were people who are returning citizens. So from that, I became passionate about empowering returning citizens and amplifying their voices. And so we are working with them to now pass pieces of legislation, i.e. the restoring the right to vote for felons here in the state of Massachusetts. They could vote up until 2000. But now gentlemen who are incarcerated at MCI Norfolk, they're called the African American Coalition Committee. They drafted legislation from behind the wall.
Wow.
And with State Representative Russell Holmes, they were able to craft that legislation, and it has now passed the House and the Senate. It's the 3rd state in the country to move this to this far, that it's now on a constitutional amendment, because that's what it takes to restore the rights for felons to vote here in the state of Massachusetts.
Wow.
So we do a lot of, so we're going into the houses of correction, Nashua County Jail, Suffolk County House of Correction, and we have a whole coalition of volunteers. Minister Flynn has come with us, and we need more folks to come who volunteer. We train them to be nonpartisan, and then we go to City Hall and bring in the absentee ballot applications, the registration forms, the candidates' platforms, like for instance when Mayor Janey was running, and we also facilitate them coming into the House of Correction. They did what a difference a DA makes, so they can actually ask their questions directly, and then we make sure that their ballot is actually, that they get their ballot, that the ballot is actually cast, and we track all of that. And if somebody falls through the cracks, we then, try to find out why. We simultaneously are creating a mobile ballot box initiative that the box will go directly to their cell to cell, just as we have the opportunity to do a mail-in ballot and cast it in a drop-in box. They don't have that opportunity. So this mobile box they will automatically get an application to them at their home with their name on it, to their home being incarceration, that they then have the opportunity to be able to say, yes, I want to request an absentee ballot, or no. They'll have to almost opt out, as opposed to having the initiative to know you can do this and the wherewithal to advocate and to push and to make sure that you can get the materials and get your ballot and make an informed decision, and that your ballot is actually cast.
Wow, I just think that that's amazing, and just hearing about this program, I'm like, you're working with a group of people who have just been so disenfranchised and marginalized, right? Because it seems like when you're behind bars in silence, right?
That's right.
And so it's great that we have people like you who are advocating for people involved in the justice system, because we need that. Yeah, we need that, and
For real.
I just know, we all know, living in our communities, we all know someone who has been justice involved.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And we don't think to empower them. We think, I personally think that we should, restructure the justice.
Yes.
Dismantle it, dismantle it and build it back up again.
That's right.
Definitely.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
should be about correction, right?
Yes.
The money that we spend.
Rehabilitation.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wraparound services. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
The money we spend on incarcerating people, we could be able to house them and educate them. Empower them so that we don't continue this recidivism, and this perpetual spiral that's just, the way that it is now is just, it's modern day slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's what it was set up to be.
Yeah.
Just like Michelle Alexander, the new
Yes.
Jim Crow.
Yes.
It's so true. And so when I found out that Pastor Hobbs was doing this type of work, I definitely wanted to help and support him. So I had went in a couple of times with him to help register people to vote and stuff. But he needs to have a crew, a crew of people, and have set times and days, because that's what it's about. A lot of people don't realize it. But as I get older, I realize that's what it's about. It's the vote. We have got to get out here and vote so that we have a voice, because that's why they don't listen to us. People say my vote don't count. I say the only time it don't count is when you don't cast it. And that is so true. And so that has been that is why I started the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute, to encourage our young folks to vote, to encourage them to run for office, teach them how to be leaders, advocate for themselves, speak up for themselves. We went down to City Hall yesterday to watch the hearings and things. This is what we need to be teaching our young folks. And then with the Black Local Organizing Committee, that's another thing where we're trying to create a new Black political task force, so that we can, if we're a 501c4, then we can raise money for our candidates. We can help our candidates and support them. That's another thing. We don't want to give to our people to help them run for office. It takes money to run for office. I know. I ran a citywide campaign, and and I see why people raise money, because you need stuff. Okay, you need signs. You need cards. You need to have someone working with you. You need staff. You need volunteers. You need people to make food.
Yeah.
Everything. It's a mini business. And so
what I find empowering about the work that you do is that you said that you work with the the inmates, I think,
Yes.
and that they help to draft legislation.
Yes.
And I think that's just so powerful because we know that like all change kind of starts with, it's policy, right?
Yes.
You say, oh, I don't like this, I don't believe in this, but if the policy isn't enacted, then nothing's going to happen.
It's true.
And I think more and more people need to know how to draft policy. Like how do you how do you do that? How do you draft legislation that's going to benefit a community? And so you're doing it. You've done it with this marginalized community. They basically draft legislation.
Can you imagine?
Law.
Law.
And if they can do that, then we can do that too.
Yes.
And we can make the change. And,
Yes.
so-
It's interesting because the African American Coalition Committee, interesting enough, that's part of the reason why they stripped the right from felons to vote, because of the impact
of their
of dismantling
Of course,
the status quo.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys behind the wall, I mean, it's amazing that they call them jailhouse lawyers. I mean, instances they're going hard behind the wall to maximize their time to make change structurally, right?
Yeah.
But things that they know have affected them and for generations. So the legislation that they crafted, I mean, the fact that they're the third state in the country, a constitutional amendment for felons just to be able to amplify their voice that they took from them because of the impact, right? So now they were able to get people in office even before they got this piece of legislation this far. They were able, with Nika El Ugardo, we were able to draft again legislation for the ballot box initiative.
Yes.
That specific piece
Yeah.
that can ultimately help us to implement this broader Voting Rights Act that was now passed, but now we've got to implement it. And with this other piece that State Representative El Ugardo helped us to craft, we can now implement it and hold other counties across the Commonwealth accountable.
That's right.
Look, we did it.
Yep.
This is how it looks to implement
Yeah.
the policy that we passed. Because it's one thing to say, oh, we passed this legislation.
But if it ain't no enforcement,
If it's
what
not
good is
enacted,
it?
what good is it?
Yeah.
Right.
So that writing piece is huge, and you're so right. State Representative El Ugardo, she was like helping us all the time. You
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah.
We can write
Yeah.
this legislation together.
That's right.
We can
Yes.
write policy.
Yeah, we
You
can.
can do this.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing. And then when you see it to get this progress, and this is the people power that we're talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think they said it's 700,000 returning citizens are released every year. We've got a shortage of employees, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Electricians, a lot of
Plumbers,
trades,
yes, yes.
they're desperate for them.
Yep.
But this is a whole workforce that can make a living wage.
That's where the workforce is.
That's the workforce.
The workforce is incarcerated.
The returning citizens.
Yes, and they need to be let out. And
Yes.
there needs to be more programs. So I was also, weren't you all instrumental in making sure that the returning citizens actually got a budget with some money under it, correct?
Yes.
1.9 million was that?
2.6 million.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And that happened. You're right. Thank you. You're absolutely right. So there was the Office of Returning Citizens that was formed but had no budget. Right. Again, they do some of these kind of things for political posturing.
yeah.
Let's just acknowledge
Yeah,
that.
right,
Oh, okay,
right,
we're going to do
okay.
this. Well, we've got all the returning citizens. The model happened in D.C. that it was run by a returning citizen. Right. And when it comes to Boston, the model often gets co-opted or distorted or
just change.
just changed.
You know?
They got a different franchise than the
No
formula.
budget. That office had no budget.
Zero
No.
budget.
That's not the only office at the city of Boston that doesn't have a budget. A lot of times they give you position, but they don't give you no budget
Or staff.
or staff. Now, does that make any sense?
It's posturing, right?
Yeah.
But we pushed them, and again, this is how we hold them accountable. We had a hearing. We, City Council Ruth C. Lejeune and City Councilor Brian Worrell, they convened a hearing and we came as activists, as organizers, as returned citizens, and we all testified and were able to get a $2.6 million budget for the Office of Returning Citizens. So now they have staff, and they did 1.6 of the $1 million was for grants. for partnering organizations, faith-based organizations, to partner with them and with the Office of Returning Citizens. So we're in the so that first round happened, and we were able to receive some resources to do some mentoring, as you were talking about. And so now, and they got refunded. Right. So this was the first go around. Now they got refunded, but now we're trying to build a collective kind of a movement. And I can't wait to talk to you offline. I'm trying to tell you, because this vision that has come through years of mobilizing the marginalized, amplifying their voices, and even getting a line item in the Boston City Council budget of $100,000. However, that money has never done what it was intended to do, because here we are at a different administration. And the biggest challenge for me, I got to tell you, as a visionary and a person who's passionate about amplifying the voice of the underserved, is writing. Right? Let me talk to you. I can talk to you and tell you, but ask me to put it on paper. Ask me to capture that and communicate it. When funders, right now, there's funders who said, we can give you the money to do whatever it is that you need to do. We just need y'all to put it on paper.
Yeah. And that is a challenge, just as someone who's worked in funding and worked in philanthropy. You know, it's interesting because you have these foundations and the money is available.
Yes.
But if you can't write the grant proposal,
Yes.
if you're in an organization where you only have one person and you can't write this grant proposal, you can't answer these questions, then you're not going to get the funding. And I think that is, that's one of the things structurally that keeps organizations back.
It's true.
Right?
Yep.
And I know that there's been a lot of movement in the philanthropy space about making the proposal writing process less cumbersome, right? Because there are people who are doing amazing work, and they probably don't have a laptop. To go online.
Yes.
There are these hurdles that these foundations have, right? It's like you got to log into a portal. You got to upload
with 20,000 questions.
Right. And if all you have is your phone and you're doing your business from your phone, and your phone is your computer, that's going to be problematic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you bring this up, because I find that to be the case with a lot of people. They come to me and they're like, can you write this proposal? Like right now, I have this amazing idea, that a client presented to me, and he just wants to put it down.
Yes.
Into words.
Yes.
And this is like seriously like $1 million idea. And he's like, I need to put this down into words, because he knows the person who's going to take it to the next level. But
yes.
The instructions are, give us a proposal.
Write
it down.
It's such a huge thing.
Who you telling? Me and Andrea, we work on proposals almost every day. These grants, I'm telling you, it's a lot of work. And what we're trying to do is create a boilerplate, so that we don't have to keep rewriting and starting all over again, And so that's what we've been working on, and it's difficult,
go ahead.
No, and another thing I was gonna say, a lot of times, especially for Black people, it's hard for us to get good grant writers, and it's also hard for us to get the funding that we really need to do the work, and that's the problem. I mean, I sat in many cohorts. We've talked to funders and we told them, listen, you give us a grant, right? We write the proposal, right? Say we give it to you in January, right? You don't let us know about it until March, right? And then we don't get the funds until June or July, right? And it's a $10,000 grant, right? Yeah. And so we got to wait 6 months before we get that. So you got to be able to strategically know when to apply for these grants at certain times of the year. And then they give you $10,000, right? Then they want you to write a 25-page report on how it saved the world. Okay? I mean, that's literally
write that report.
Right, exactly. The time that you put in. Me and Andrew we be on Zoom writing grants. I'm telling you, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot, and people put in a lot of time, and it's so. You know, so I used to ask people, well, you know, why don't you take a percentage, you know? But they say, well, what if you don't get the grant?
Right.
What am I getting the percentage of, right?
Yeah.
And you don't put that time in. So I understand how why grant makers and grant writers, you know, ask for the money that they ask for, because it's a lot of work. I mean, I did a lot of the grant writing when I was with BG, and I've done all the fundraising for Marcus Anthony, and so it's a lot of work.
I just want to, you know, just say that, you know, and this is, you know, for anybody who's, you know, struggling with the grant proposal writing process and all of that, there is philanthropymass.org. And
Philanthropy.
I think it's philanthropymass.org, right? And they have a tab called Tools. And on that tab, you'll find you know, like the standard questions that most foundations ask, you know. It's basically like a template for writing a boilerplate proposal.
Wow.
Right? You also have the template for the budget, right? And so most of the foundations, you know, any grantor, they pretty much ask the same questions. They may ask them in a different order.
Right.
And this is why my thing to my clients is, you know, get a boilerplate proposal, right?
Yes.
And use the template at philanthropy.mass
Wow.
to write your boilerplate proposal, or get somebody to write that proposal, and you'll see that proposal will take you very far.
Yes.
Because then you can use it for all of the other foundations. So get a
Yes.
boilerplate proposal.
Yes.
You know, write it yourself. If you can't answer the questions, and bring it to someone else, put it into the narrative format, use that format, that philanthropy mass, because they all
that
go
is
back to
amazing,
back.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mask, M-A-S-K.
Philanthropy mass.
MASS.
I'm sorry, philanthropy MA. I'm sorry.
MA.
Philanthropy
Mask, like the state.
Yes, like the state.
Okay.
So philanthropyma.org, I believe, is the site.
Okay.
But there's the template is there, the budget is there. If you're applying to the Boston Foundation, the questions that they ask, right, most of the questions are on that template. If you're applying to any of the foundations in Massachusetts, they're asking the same questions that are on that template that you'll see at Philanthropy MA.
Wow.
So I use in my work, you know, I will say, oh, you want a grant proposal? You want a boilerplate proposal? I get the Philanthropy MA proposal. I complete it for the organization, and that's your boilerplate. And what will happen is some foundations will probably, you know, put another question in, but they're all
Or may not
asking
have the same question.
the same question,
Right.
but they're all asking they're
yes.
core questions, you know, and I'd say it's like probably 15 questions. What you have to do to make a proposal is to answer those questions and then put it in a narrative format, and there's your proposal. And then you use that as your currency.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked with people. They started with the one proposal. You know, this was back in the day when I wasn't charging anything but like $10 to write it. They took that proposal and flipped that $10,000 and got $400,000. So that's just an industry.
And do you also offer, like she was saying, so it's one thing, the boilerplate, that's great, right? Even to get the grants, but then the reports, right? Because that's another whole capacity thing.
And the
that's the
report-
same thing
yeah.
too, because they have a report template
Yeah,
there too.
yeah.
And most often when they're
same
asking for a report,
questions.
it's really, you know, what did you do with this money? You know, how did you move your vision forward?
Right,
What
right.
are the
Who did you
evaluation tools?
hire?
Who did you hire? Yeah.
Who's on your board? That's a lot
yeah.
of things they want. They
Yeah.
want a lot of like diversity and stuff, you know.
You know, what
yeah,
were your
you know-
goals coming in, and did you meet those goals? And you know, and you'll see if you look at the report and you look at the philanthropy template. You know, you say what you want to do in your proposal, and the report is really saying, did you do what you
right,
said
right.
you wanted to do?
Yeah,
How much did it cost? Who
Yeah.
did you work with to do it?
Yeah, who did you? Yeah, they also ask for you, like if you have collaborative partners
Yeah,
and things like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
It's outstanding. Well, I think, you know, again, I'm so happy to meet you, right, and to hear your service. And I really want to know more about it, because I think so many times we miss out because, again, even with that $100,000 grant, not grant, line item, City Council Charles Ansley, he said, we'll not pass this budget unless you create this line item. Because you can have the discussion of increasing, decreasing, or level funding once a line item exists. We don't have that conversation until it exists.
Right.
And that's the power of the City Council, is passing the mayor's budget. That's their major strength, right? Because most things she can veto, but she needs.
But now
them.
you can change the budget. Now the city councilors can add their own amendments and put their own line items in.
Right.
But sometimes if you don't get the majority,
Yes.
then you still don't get what you want.
Right.
Yeah. It's
But my point, right, was with that said is, so even with that said, right, so the point is that working with the system, which is it your organization, is it consulting, is it
Medium Communications, and we basically are like a full service communications firm, and we do a lot of our work is in nonprofit development, writing proposals, strategic plans, and websites. So anything like communication, whether it's writing, speaking, using computer, all of that.
That's so awesome. Two things is, one is, so back to the infrastructure piece, right? Because so though we got that $100,000 line item, the city council unanimously said, yes, we want to have a state of emergency, and we think this line item should happen. Right, that was their power. They could do that. However, they gave it, and again, without an RFP process, to an organization that wasn't even a part of the process, but was a gatekeeper organization that had, quote unquote, the infrastructure. That's the word they always use to justify somebody else getting this pot of money that has no connection to the community, no connection or commitment to the process or the people whose voices they're amplifying. They just want that money. And so they just get it and they waste it. Because then they have to justify, then they hurry up and try to rush up and spend it toward the end of the year because they want to justify we need it to be able to get it again. And again, they've got the infrastructure. They know how to play the game. So they can give you the report. They can say, oh yeah, because again, they didn't even write they're creating their own RFP. Because if you just give someone $100,000 and there was no RFP, right? Then basically they can do what they want to do. And
because there's no guideline.
There was no guideline.
Yeah.
You understand? So this is the kind of stuff that happens, and this is the games that structural racism and classism.
Right. And so when I think about nonprofits, I think about the fact that nonprofits were created to help poor people, low and moderate income folks, right? That's what I believe. For the grassroots organizations that we work in. And so for that, I feel like we have a lot of different groups that do a lot of similar work, right? And we all go after the same funders, the Heinz Foundation, the Boston Foundation, the Lenny Zakem Fund, things like that, right? But what if you have 4 or 5 groups that worked on education and they wrote a grant, like to the MacArthur or the Kellogg's Foundation, and say you had groups that worked education, you had groups that worked on jobs, you had groups that worked on housing, public safety. If these groups could come together as a cohort, right, and start working together and building their infrastructure among their cohort, right, then they would have probably a grant writer. They would probably have like a bookkeeper. They probably would have everything that they needed in them 4 or 5 different organizations, right? And then they could go after big money. Because there's not really a lot of, there's money here, but a lot of these organizations and foundations do not like to fund social justice work. But things are changing. And so I feel like we don't get a bigger, we need to have a bigger pool where to get money from. And we also need Bridget. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. My name is Claudette Wright. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's nice to hear you on the radio. Congratulations to both of you lovely ladies and the work that you're doing in the community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bridget, I had a question for you first. Does your new organization, Media Communication, have a website?
Yes, we do. We're at mediumcommunications.com.
Okay. Medium, right? You said?
Medium.
Or media?
Medium, like, kind of like...
Okay. Okay. Dot com.
Like large, medium, small.
Yeah, mediumcommunications.com.
Okay. And the other question is, so if I have a nonprofit and just say I want to do business with Medium Communication, what would be some of the first steps I would do, and what kind of budget would I need?
I just, my thing is no budget is too small. I'm really, our mission is to really kind of help, people speak and to be this medium or this bridge, right, between, what your message is and the people who need to receive it, whether it's, your nonprofit and you're looking for funding and you want to talk to to foundations, then we will work with you to develop a proposal. And initially what we do is we sit down with our clients and we talk about what the needs are, what is it that you're looking for. And in most cases with nonprofit development, people don't know, but we work with them and say, okay, maybe what you need is a boilerplate proposal. And then beyond that, you then need a list of prospects, like funding prospects, whether it's foundations or individual people who are individuals that might be able to write you a check for $1,000 or more. But we would initially do an assessment and meet with you to figure out exactly what your needs are. And then beyond that, we would put together a scope of services and that details what it is that you'd like to receive from us. And we work with you if it's nonprofit development to draft the proposal and submit the proposal to the foundations, and also to we do prospect research, and we'll put together a list of funders that are looking for organizations like yours to fund.
Exciting. Another question is, do you help with people who, just in case they want to invent a product?
What was the question again?
Can you help somebody if they had an idea that they want to invent a product and make it a nonprofit or whatever, a product that could help the community or help individuals that,
yes,
might have an illness or whatever?
Oh, yes. So, I tend to say my thing is anything written, right? If you need anything written, I am like the family obituary writer, and other people's have adopted me to be their obituary writer. I just write anything. So, I think with products, I had a client who actually invented a great product, and what she wanted to do was she was interested in creating a sample of that product. So I worked with her to write a proposal that she then took and presented to people who, I guess investors. So, if you don't know what it is that you want to do, but you have an idea, and your thoughts are, okay, I have an idea for a product or a business or a nonprofit organization. What is the best way to get it out there? We'll sit with you and work with you, and maybe it's not that you need a proposal. Maybe what you need is a business plan. Maybe what you need is a synopsis. Maybe what you need is a deck, right? For right now, I have someone who has $1 million idea, like a very, very amazing idea. And, my suggestion to him is, hey, you need to put this in a deck, because if you're going, to present this to investors, which, they already have the investors. The investors just want to see what the idea is. In most cases, it's a PowerPoint deck, and it's a presentation. So we work with the client to take the ideas and to put it into a deck, and then we also show them how to present it. And if they're hesitant about presenting it, we'll go and work with them and help them present their business idea via a PowerPoint deck.
Do you know you sound like an angel? The more I learn about you, the more I'm convinced you are really an angel.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. No, I'm not. I just think I just have I've been fortunate to just kind of be born at the right time, and having been brought up in a community where it's like, okay, you give back, and that's what I've been doing. I've been, taking my skills and trying to give back to people because.
Well, it's wonderful, and it's really refreshing to let the world know that you don't have to play football or be this big CEO of a company. You can do writing and love it and be profitable and be impactful and really make a difference in people's community. I'm really loving this interview. I got a question for you, Priscilla. Now, you said the name of your organization is called. You said. I'm sorry.
Marcus Anthony
and can
Hall
you tell us?
Educational Institute.
And can you tell me a little bit about that institute and how it came into play? And I'm going to jump off and listen while you talk about it briefly. And if you got a website. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you for calling, caller. Okay, so Marcus Anthony Hall was built was created because of a young man who worked with another organization that I worked with, and he was killed in gun violence on June 14, 2016, where he had took his 4-year-old son to the barber shop to get his hair cut. His son's name is Yoda, and we found out that he was, this young man, he was really trying to do the best that he can in raising his son and being out in the community. He had a couple of organizations. One was called the Booth, Brothers Out of the Hood, and the other one was called the Community Action Plan, CAP. So he was kind of like, going around the different churches, asking them, if they would support him and let him come in and talk to the youth about, what they were trying to do. And some of the churches told him no, he wasn't a member and he wasn't a tithe payer, so they turned him away. And so it was really sad after he got killed. So because he was part of our organization, and because I knew his mother very well, because me and his mother used to vend together. I used to vend with my book, and she used to vend with her clothes. And so when he got killed, it was just a shock. I was at my friend's wedding, and I just happened to open my phone, and there it was on Facebook. And I couldn't even stay at the wedding. I was just so upset. And so we went through the process of, his mother burying him and everything. And she created so she's still a vendor, and she created a tie set, the bow ties and the hanger, and she calls it the Marcus Hall collection, I think. But so what we do at Marcus Anthony Hall is that we teach our young folks how to run for office. We teach them how to advocate for themselves. We teach them how to write grants. We teach them about moral leadership, what that means, how to do research, research your own papers. And we teach them about financial literacy, how to become an entrepreneur if you want. Yeah. And so we're encouraging them at an early age to start thinking about what you want to do. But you don't have to start thinking about a job. You can start thinking about a business or a career, And so that is what we do. And our website is www.mahei.org. Again, www.mahei.org. www.mahei.org. So Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute. And so thank you, Carla. And so I don't know how much time we have. 4 minutes, Lord. So time goes by so fast when you're having fun, right? I mean, and it's, Bridget, it has just been, like I told you, it's been amazing to meet you. And and the few times that I've worked, that I've met with you, you have just been such a, like the woman said, angel. Just a burst of sunshine. And it's like you always smiling and you're sincere. And that's what I like, your sincerity. When I first met you, you was working for Blacks in Philanthropy, right? And I told you my opinion about how I felt and everything, right? But I did not know the next time I saw you, you was gonna have your own business. I said, this sister ain't playing, but really, I think your company is something that is really needed for our nonprofits, especially our small ones, our grassroots ones that are really doing good work. Right. That's the thing. The ones that are out here doing the work, Well, they're the ones that don't get the resources, you know, and that's why they fold up, or that's why they mess up. You know, I always look at, when I think about the construction industry, and that's my pet peeve. That's, you know, I'm always fighting for our brothers and sisters to be on the construction jobs. But one thing that I notice is that when they can do the work. The work is not the problem. It's the back office. It's the payroll. It's the accounts payable. It's accounts receivable. A lot of them don't have that. You know, you ask them for their paperwork and they give you a shoebox full of receipts. You know, if you had, in just the same way with the nonprofit, you could do that same thing with the construction workers. You got 4 or 5 plumbing companies that don't have their paperwork together. So you hire a bookkeeping firm, or you hire a back office person that can run your payroll, that can do your accounts payable, that can do your accounts receivable, right? And you all just pitch in a certain amount of money every month to pay the company. I mean, to me, that sounds real easy, right? But it's hard to get our people to do that, you know, because you thought if you have plumbers, electricians, because I mean, working on my house, boy, I mean, a whole bunch of people in the construction field. And these, you know, and I also sit on the Boston Employment Commission, where I see so much injustice, you know, because our people don't have the proper back office skills and stuff.
I just want to say one last thing, that I've worked with Jewish communities, and one of the fascinating things that I've seen is that they have a model called the Jewish Roundtable, the Jewish Social Justice Roundtable. And it's an amazing organization, and like you said, it's kind of like a coalition. And what happened was, all of these executive directors basically decided that they were going to get together and they were going to meet, and they were going to form a coalition. And through that coalition, they go and they apply for grants, and those grants funnel down into the communities that these directors or these organizations that these directors oversee. I just keep saying, why aren't we doing this?
Right.
We have something called the Black Directors Network, which is ran. I know in leadership, it's like.
They could get grants. That Black Directors Network, they could come together. They could write a proposal, and foundations like to see this. They want to see, you know, coalitions